This event and this kickoff, so to speak, comes at a particularly opportune time. Just when we thought that we could really focus on the number one issue that really matters to Americans right now, jobs and the economy, and making sure that we can continue the forward progress that President Obama has been able to produce from where we were when he took office. Remember, we were bleeding 750,000 jobs a month. When he took office, he inherited the most and biggest set of problems at once of any president in history, probably since FDR. And now, let's look forward 3 years later. We've had 23 straight months of job growth in the private sector, 3.7 million jobs created and counting, an unemployment rate that, while is still stubbornly too high, continues to tick downward. The stock market has had a resurgence. We see small business owners saying that they are willing and able to begin hiring again. Access to capital has begun to be freed up. All the signs that the economy is on the mend. And what are Republicans obsessed with talking about? Refighting, cultural wars, cultural debates that were settled, quite frankly, before I was born. Really? We're having a debate over affordable access to contraception? I have to tell you, I've represented my community in the state legislature and in Congress for 19 years. And so I know them pretty well. When I go home into South Florida, that is not what people talk to me about. Contraception. Family planning. A woman's right to choose. Not the first thing on people's minds when I'm at my town hall meetings. And then in Virginia, or any other Super Tuesday state. And this is Super Tuesday. We know we've got a lot of elections going on all across the country, but not the least of which is in Virginia. Now, notwithstanding the fact that some of the Republicans couldn't get their act together enough to actually get on the ballot here. So I'm not sure how pivotal Virginia's election is going to be today, since it's not really an actual fair, an accurate contest. But, I think it's emblematic of the entire Republican field and how out of touch and disorganized they have been. Last week, we spent most of the week arguing over whether or not bosses should be able to decide for their female employees whether the boss's moral conviction should be the deciding factor in what kinds of affordable access to health care their female employees should get. That's what the Blunt-Rubio bill was all about. And the Senate, fortunately, because it's still controlled by Democrats, defeated that amendment. Mitt Romney, and Lise alluded to this a moment ago, Mitt Romney, in record time, went from saying that of course he opposed that to, oh no, I misunderstood the question, and I absolutely support it. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, folks. Really. I mean, the fact that he has conviction based in quicksand is probably the reason that he is upside down with independent voters right now, where his disapproval rating has reached 39% with general election voters. And with independent voters, he's at 38% disapproval, only 22% approval among independent voters. And so what's happened in this Republican primary is that it's been so divisive and so negative, and they've had to embrace extremism and run so far to the right, and are so out of step with average voters that no matter what happens today on Super Tuesday, in the general election, you're going to really see a dramatic contrast, and they've done, whoever their nominee is, has done some real damage to themselves. So let's move on. In Virginia, you've been dealing with some interesting discussions recently as it relates to women. The intrusive legislation that your governor, Bob McDonnell, actually entertained signing that would have been so invasive to women, so intrusive, so personally intrusive, that it caused and it sparked a national outrage, and quite frankly, only I think because of his personal ambition did he likely step back from signing the most egregious version of that legislation, yet still is willing to sign an intrusive piece of legislation that says that a woman has to have an ultrasound, a non-medically recommended ultrasound, before she can actually make a decision to terminate a pregnancy. I mean, but yet the Republicans want to get government out of our lives.
Right.
I mean, the incongruity of their public statements and their public policy positions on issues and what they say is so hypocritical that it should be a strong signal to women. The personhood amendment that had to be shelved. Mitt Romney has embraced that in his own home state of Massachusetts, in state initiatives across the country, but there was so much outrage among women in this state that they had to put it on the back burner. And let's make no mistake, we are not going to allow them to just sweep it under the rug and only to bring it back next year in the darkness and stealth and when the Klieg lights are no longer on them, and bring it back and try to take away the rights of women. Because the personhood amendments that Mitt Romney supports would go so far as to not just ban all forms of abortion, including when a woman is raped or the victim of incest, but it would also ban many forms of infertility treatments, denying women and parents, potential parents, the opportunity to have a family, denying women's access to contraception. I mean, so they want to so totally control women's personal lives that this is yet another example of how dramatically off base they are when it comes to the priorities of women. And now let's look at Barack Obama's record. Barack Obama's remarkable record. The first bill that he signed into law was the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act. That tells you, as the father of two young daughters, and I'm the mom of two young daughters, the priority that Barack Obama puts on the issues that are important to women. Because, you know, for many years, my entire life, probably most of the lives of most of you, we've been hearing about the importance of equal pay for equal work and our right to have equal pay for equal work. But there's never been much teeth behind that actual requirement. Now there is. The Lilly Ledbetter law allows women to be able to actually fight for themselves and put some teeth behind the notion that they cannot be discriminated against in terms of pay when a man is doing the same job and getting paid more than them. That's what Barack Obama did for the women in this country. Economic equality. I mean, lots of equality. Equality matters in general, but economic equality has been elusive for far too long, no longer. When it comes to other issues, President Obama has consistently and repeatedly stood up for women. 2 Supreme Court justice appointments that he had available in his term, not one but 2 women nominated, confirmed, including the first Latina in American history, Justice Sonia Sotomayor. Making sure that being a woman is no longer a pre-existing condition, and having ovaries is not a pre-existing condition any longer. Incredibly important. In passing the Affordable Care Act, insurance companies can no longer drop us or deny us coverage for a pre-existing condition. And for me as a breast cancer survivor, I was diagnosed 3.5 years ago at 41 years old, just a few weeks after my first mammogram, which I had after I turned 40. It showed that it was clean. So important, because women like me and the 45% of Americans, of all Americans who live in this country with a pre-existing condition, are one job loss away from being uninsured and uninsurable under the current system, under the old system. Thanks to the Affordable Care Act, insurance companies can't drop us or deny us coverage. And as moms who are constantly worried about our babies, even our young adult babies until they're 26 years old, can now stay on their parents' insurance until they turn 26. And that's an incredibly important peace of mind for families. So President Obama, time and again, fighting for more funding for the STEM fields so that women can have access to science, technology, engineering, and math education. Because too often we have girls steered away from those fields, and we know that there is a dearth of women making the decision early on in their lives to embrace science and math and make the decision to go into the STEM career paths. And so President Obama has made that a priority as well. So what do we need to do? We've had an incredible, remarkable record from the President on the issues important to women, and extremism embraced by the Republican field of candidates led by Mitt Romney. What we need to do tonight and every night from now until November 6th is attend and make the commitment to come down to those women-to-women phone banks. Make sure that you part with what is your most precious resource, because I know that the fundraisers don't like when I say that your most precious resource isn't your money. But as a busy working mom, I can assure you that I know your most precious resource is your time. And that is what is going to carry Barack Obama back to the White House, on the shoulders of women, and us parting with that most precious resource, our time, for the door knocks and the phone calls. and the letter writing and the emails and the tweeting and the social media, because I know that we can do it. And we are going to use every tool available to us. And so I'm pleased to tell you as I wrap up, I'm pleased to share with you that later this week, we will announce the rollout of the DNC Women's Outreach Institute, which will establish at the Democratic Party an outreach program, a permanent outreach program for women, that this year will be focused on electing Democrats up and down the ballot, reaching out to women through organizational outreach and outreach to women leaders and elected officials and DNC members and third-party organizations. First this year to supplement the activities of Women for Obama, and then next year to continue the effort of electing women and encouraging women to get out and support Democrats. But it's incredibly important that we send a strong message to women from the Democratic Party, from the Obama for America re-election campaign, that we will make sure that the issues that are important to women are paramount and held up high throughout this presidential election, just as President Obama has done so as President of the United States. So on to victory on November 6th. Thank you all very much.